Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Madeline Stage and I'm the owner and designer behind Goheen, where I design sewing patterns, creative journal pages, and a line of sewn goods made from repurposed materials. And I occasionally make videos. So today I'm going to show you some of my everyday journal pages. First, we're going to take a look back at February, which is all filled in, and see kind of what worked and what didn't. And then we'll take a look at March, which is filled and ready to go for the next month, but I haven't gotten into it yet. So we'll take a look at those pages and see what I plan to do to use them throughout the month of March. Let's get started. Opening up my planner to February, you'll see that the cover page here is a bunch of circles. So something about me is that I decide on a word of the year every year, and for this year that word is light. Every month I choose a quote that contains the word for the year and helps me keep that word top of mind. So for February, the quote is, "Healing happens in circles, not lines. You'll return to old places and see them in a new light." And so I decided to go along with that quote, I would just make my theme circles. Not every month does the quote actually match the theme, but sometimes it does. I also felt like I've just been feeling really overwhelmed recently with all the things that I need to do. And that always means kind of a paring back of the design elements, fewer markers, stickers, doodles, and just getting something basic that means I don't have to spend all my time on the artistic element and it's more for the planning. And I felt like the circles would be relatively easy. I have a compass, I have pens, and as you'll see later, I add in just a little bit of pink color to the pages as well, kind of referencing Valentine's Day in February. So here we have my aims page and also my finances page. So my aims page is broken down into couple categories, but it's essentially a page where I can get out all of my ideas for the month of what I'm going to be trying to accomplish in different areas. So it's broken down into things like to get, which is self-explanatory, things we need to buy that aren't necessarily regular purchases, and then to clean, kind of those deeper clean things that aren't constant. I'm not going to put like laundry or groceries on here. And then we have aims, which are things that are a little more ambiguous. It's not something you can just check off the list, but it is something that I want to keep like top of mind. So currently that's a lot of like health things for me. So, you know, helping my back to get better is not like a one-step thing, but it is an aim and it is something that I'm spending lots of time on. Goals usually kind of reflect back on things that I've actually set for the year, or in this case, I'm trying for the first quarter. There are certain things that I have put as goals, and these are the steps kind of for the month that lead back to those goals. Tasks are the one-off kind of things that are out of your routine, but it is not a big project. It's like a simple step. So pick up my MRI from the hospital. So that was like a one-time thing that I did. It's not recurring. It's something that just needed to get done and can be checked off. And then Goheen, which is my work things that can go in this section. I do not have a different planner for work as opposed to my personal life, because currently as a full-time stay-at-home parent, there isn't a whole lot of separation. And in fact, there's not a whole lot of work going on in this part of my life. It's more of a backseat thing, and I don't need a completely different journal for that. I can just use this one and have certain places in it that I put things for work. Moving on to finances, which is something I fill out honestly after the month has ended. So it's not filled out, but there's a place for it. This will be basically a list of categories and then a couple of different snapshots for those categories. We keep all this information in a spreadsheet, so it's a little bit redundant, but honestly, I don't mind because handwriting things out actually helps me to kind of synthesize the information and remember it, and I feel like that's good for finances to help make sure that I'm actually paying attention to them. So it will have a category, what is in the envelope. We have virtual envelopes at the beginning of the month, what is actually spent in that category in the month, and then a column for what is the finished amount in the envelope at the end of the month. Yep. Okay. So it may seem redundant, like I don't need each of these columns, but it is helpful because sometimes you move money around from one envelope to another to kind of cover something that was more expensive than you thought. So that's why you have the beginning, the end, and then a separate column for what was actually spent. Okay, going to the next page, now we have my habits. This is probably the most overwhelming page to look at for somebody, but it's really simple. Across the top, we have the days of the month. Down the side, we have all the things that I'm trying to track. And then in the cross section, day 1, meds, you either have a hollow circle or a filled in circle. And it just means whether I completed part or all of a habit. So I have what I consider to be high-low habits, where if I do, let's say I'm aiming to take all of my medication, obviously, and so if I finish all of them, then you color the circle in. But if I forgot to take one of the medications, then it's a hollow circle because I did part of it. For other examples, it may be walking. I aim to have 2 walks a day, but if I only get 1, then you get the hollow circle. Or maybe it's photo clean. I'm doing like a digital clear out of my photos on my phone. And so for this one, the filled in circles are actually the days where I am actually doing the task, but also the hollow circles are the progress that I've made. So I have cleared those days of photos, if that makes sense. So you can see there are a lot of blank spaces. There are a lot of things I'm not trying to do every single day. And it's just that I want to track when I did them last so that I know, because there are some things I don't think need to be done every day, but if I don't know exactly when I did it last, then it's hard to do it in a consistent manner. So I'm not aiming for this all to be filled in. I'm not aiming for it all to be filled in circles. So it's much less intimidating to me than I think it looks to other people. Moving along, we finally get to my calendar spread, which is pretty basic. You have your days of the month, and I put my things that are scheduled here, and then when I schedule it, I put an open circle. And then when it happens, I fill it in, or if it doesn't happen for some reason, I will cross it out. And usually if it is an X when it's crossed out, it means it was out of my control. But a single cross means that I chose not to do something. I don't know why. It's just nice for me to know sometimes when I look back why things didn't happen. This next spread is my journal, which is something else that I do. It's just like long form writing that I do at the end of the month, or sometimes halfway through the next month because I never get to it. And then these circles on the outside are different categories of things that I track because I track so much stuff. So I call it my monthly review. So this is the February review. And I have things like successes, challenges, improvements, average steps, money in and out, just like lots of different things that I think it's fun to see over an entire year or even multiple years how things change. So these will get finished after the month ends. And moving on to my weeklies. So this was a new weekly setup that I'd never tried before, and I've actually decided that I really like it. So this is obviously the week of the year, and then we have the dates of the week across the top. I have a menu here of what I plan out for the week as far as what I'm going to make, and it gets a little check mark if it actually happens as I planned. Here I have a habits tracking section. It's redundant. I mean, these are things that are for the most part over on the other habit tracking page, but sometimes it's nice to see the ones that are, you know, just I do it like once a week kind of thing. It's nice to see them on the weekly spread so that I can know that it has happened. Down here we have my tasks. It's just like a rolling task list where I'll write out, you know, working on making an Illinois pillow. And every day that I go in and work on it, I put a dot. And then if I've finished the task, the dot also gets put to a line and an X to the, because there's a dot here at the start and then dots down here for when I work on it, if that makes sense. Line means it's done. And then sometimes I put these circles here as days where I plan to do it. Sounds more confusing than it is. And then at the end of the week, if I want to migrate things forward, a little arrow pointing to the right means it's migrated forward, or an X means it got done, even if it didn't reflect being done at some point on the week. And this circle here I fill in if I have fully migrated or finished all these tasks so that I know I'm not forgetting anything. This blank section here is just for notes, which I obviously didn't use this week, but I'm okay with that. I would rather have a place to put notes and have it blank than have no place to put it and feel like I need to write it somewhere random where I won't remember where it is. And then the really new thing for me this month is this week breakdown with like the hours. I've never tried something like this before, but I kind of like it because it gives me a better overview of if there are chunks of free time in my day where I can actually do things like these videos, or, you know, free time to do something that isn't scheduled. And I kind of tried to put a solid box around things that are like appointments, and I included the time to get to and from the appointments as well, so that it didn't look like just free time when it wasn't actually free. And then the kind of dashed boxes are more of things that are softly scheduled in. Maybe it's going to the gym, or getting my daughter down for her nap, picking my son up from school, things that like picking my son up from school just ended up going to a solid box there. But you know, cooking dinner, things that have to happen but aren't as strict as far as when they happen. So we'll take a look at a few more of these weekly spreads here, which are more or less filled out depending on the week. You know, things checked off, things filled in. Sometimes the notes are used, sometimes they're not. And this is the current week we're in. And this week I thought about, I think I might, going forward, I might use like a highlight in some of these open spaces to kind of like reserve it for things that always get pushed. It's the sewing projects that aren't actually for a client, or these videos that I'm experimenting with, things that get pushed aside for the household tasks. And so I think maybe if I use a highlighter and put it on my weekly schedule, that maybe I will be more likely to reserve those times and count on them. So here is a pretty good example of how there's a lot of dots going on here and not everything gets crossed out. That's very normal, and I like that. Instead of, sometimes like tax prep, it's like there are a million steps and I could write the next one or two or several here and check them off. And sometimes I do, but it's also nice to just know here's this project that needs to get done and I am making progress and I don't have to have a million steps written out for it. But you can see that it has been worked on, even if it isn't crossed off, on the day or in the week or even this month or whatever. You're making progress. So that was the end of February. This is just scratch pages in between the months where I was writing out kind of meal ideas. And now we are moving on to March. So once again, I'm feeling pretty stressed and overwhelmed by the things I need to do. So my thought was to make this simple. So I chose 2 colors of marker and a black pen and decided mostly just on boxes. Just draw some boxes, make it simple. Sometimes it's hard for me to actually try and make things simple and still make them aesthetically pleasing, because the more I like the look of my planner, the easier it is for me to use it. But anyway, here's March. We have just one side cover page and then my aims page, which is ready to be filled in. And for March, my quote is, "Sometimes that light at the end of the tunnel is a train." Obviously, this is not train themed. I didn't do anything as far as matching the theme with the quote. I just thought the quote was funny and it made me chuckle. And sometimes things in life get thrown off track. Things aren't what you expect. And this is the quote I needed this month. So, quote page, aims page. Next we have the calendar look, which just because I like the size of these boxes, I decided to put the first of the month down here because I don't want to have it not on the calendar, but I also didn't want to make another row and make everything shorter. I also thought about putting it over here and then having the notes section smaller, since this is a new thing I'm trying anyway. I'm not sure exactly what notes I'll have, but I thought it might be nice to have a space there. But at the end of things, I decided it's for a single day. I will just put it on its proper day, Sunday, but just down at the bottom. And I still need to write in March down here. I mean, I'll know what month it is, but I left a space for it, so I should do it. This is the look of my habits page this month. Days of the month, habits will be listed here. I did in every other line kind of highlight to see if it could make it a little bit easier to stay in the correct row. Every once in a while I get tripped up if I don't have these. So we're going to these every other line highlights. This column is for when I tally up the totals at the end of the month, it'll go there. And over here, I really wanted to have kind of a reset in terms of, I use a lot of the same habits month after month, and I know in my head what the low and high are, but sometimes they change, or sometimes I forget, or sometimes I think I might look back at these journals in years to come and not know, okay, I got the high habit, but what was I aiming for? So this seemed like a nice time to use this space, and I will go and say, what exactly it is, 1 walk versus 2 walks or whatever it is. It'll be a nice reference point for this point in time. Turning the page here, we have finances, which
like I explained before, we'll have category first of the month spent and end of the month, and then just 2 columns for all the different categories. And then this will be my journal page for when I do my freeform writing. And then we have our weeklies, which I have only set up this first week so far. But you can see it's very similar to February's. The only difference being, I think I added these back in, which are a thing that I've tried in the past, and I still do them sometimes, but it is a weekly review, a weekly reset. I actually have weekly and monthly reset cards that I have made. And the idea is that it's a list of things that I would like to do every week, and you can just line it up and check them off without having to rewrite these out every single week. I will say I have neglected them recently, partly because, like I said, I'm feeling stressed, a little overwhelmed, and that is one of the things that just falls to the side. But maybe this month I'll get back to it. Who knows? But this is it. This is my March. I am excited for March. I can't believe we're already in March. And let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer them. I sometimes feel silly sharing videos like this because I don't know if anyone's actually interested in seeing my setups, but I always find it so fascinating to see what works for other people, and I like being able to take bits and pieces of what other people do and put them into my journal and see if they work for me. And so I'm hoping that maybe this will inspire somebody, maybe this will help someone start a new routine, a habit, something, or just have fun, be excited to get back into their journal. So let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in my next video.